Okay, so hello, welcome to another week of Bear Film Club, our double bill show where we bring two films to the table and pick a double bill out of them. So this week's topic is dystopian sci-fi to go with last week's topic of utopian sci-fi. Ain't the future not so neat?
Indeed. I think, as we discussed with Ain't the Future Neat, it was an interesting one to choose because obviously the definition of a utopia is often slightly problematic. I think this one
found this week easier.
I found this one harder to choose, to be honest. I think because there's more of an abundance of things that you can choose that you can say are dystopian.
There's more choice, definitely.
Yeah, I think there's more choice, and therefore I've had a harder time kind of narrowing it down as to what I want to do, and because there's tons of excellent choices out there, obviously, but like there's the more traditional dystopian films, and then there's other interpretations of dystopia.
Yeah.
And I think for at least one of my picks, I'm going to try and have a slightly different interpretation.
I nearly picked a short film.
Oh, really?
But thought I'd keep it to features.
Yeah.
I nearly picked Légèreté.
What did you pick?
Légèreté. Is that how it's pronounced?
Légèreté.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's not a hard G.
I wasn't using a hard G.
I thought it sounded... No, well...
Jeté.
Oh, no, you were using like a hard J, not a hard G.
Yeah. I'm not French, so...
No. Yeah, I thought about that as well. It's not a short as such.
It's 20 minutes.
I suppose it is, yeah. So,
I mean, it has a feature adaptation by...
yeah, and which in turn has had a TV series.
Show, yeah. 12 Monkeys, if anyone is wondering.
So, I'm going to suggest then, straight off the bat,
we're
going to make this one a triple bill, and everyone should watch, as it's so short, if you can find it, Légèreté.
Yeah, very interesting film. It doesn't use moving images at all.
No, it
not
doesn't,
many.
Does
it? It's mostly told through stills.
Yeah, told through stills. Yeah,
it's the story of a time traveller coming back in time to avert a somewhat dystopian future.
Yep. Which again, as we've alluded to, was adapted and became 12 Monkeys, the Bruce Willis film. So, so I think that is definitely part one of, as this is the season finale.
We'll make it a triple bill.
We'll make it a triple bill. So Légèreté. Apologies to any French speakers out there. So it was, for me, it was a little harder. I think because there was a gluttony of choice this week, as opposed to Utopia, where it was a bit more precise, I suppose, in a way. Would you like to go first, James?
Yes, my first pick is Mad Max. Fury Road.
Fury Road.
Yes.
So you've gone for that one, not any of the others.
No, both my I enjoy all the Mad Max films. But Fury Road is eyeball-bleedingly good.
Interesting. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it as well. It's a genre film that is one of those rare genre films where it seems the whole film industry, including critics, and critics that are usually like quite snooty and lean more towards independent cinema and this, that, and the other, and it was one of those ones that was almost universally loved. Yeah.
And despite being called Mad Max, the film predominantly is not about Mad Max. Mad Max, although I think it's the same for all the Mad Max films, really. It's more about Mad Max wandering into other people's
Yeah, I think
stories.
Max is a narrator of sorts, in the same way that,
Yeah.
say, R2-D2 and C-3PO in the Star Wars films, and obviously where Star Wars gets its R2-D2 and C-3PO, the Hidden Fortress, the Kurosawa film. So.
In this film, Mad Max himself portrayed by Tom Hardy.
Yep.
But it's the story of the three brides four brides led by Charlize Theron, trying to escape from Immortan Joe.
Yep.
And how they are chased. It's basically a 2-hour long car chase.
Oh yeah, yeah, a brilliant one at that.
Yeah, visually stunning. Features a dude with a guitar that spits fire. Because why would you not want that in your film?
Exactly.
But yeah, I think Miller modernised the franchise quite well, especially with focusing it in on the brides, and also on the idea of one of Immortan Joe's men who kind of gets stuck with him, played by
Beast.
Yeah. What's his? We really need to learn actors' names before we start these episodes.
We probably do, yeah. I can't. If you'd said it another time, it would have been the tip of my tongue.
I know it, but I just can't.
About a Boy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know who these people are. I just don't know their names. Nicholas Hoult.
Nicholas Hoult. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent actor. I mean, to be honest, an incredible cast all round.
Yeah, and it becomes a story also of him trying to. It's fundamentally a story of people trying to escape the overbearing toxic masculinity that they kind of come from.
Yeah.
Nichols' character trying to shake everything he's taught, and the bride's trying to escape what it does to them.
Yeah.
And Max is kind of along for the
ride. Yeah, because I mean, Max is probably guilty of the toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, but then probably with him, it's as much as anything a means of survival, because obviously he's been alone for the entire, essentially, apocalypse.
Yeah.
Because I think doesn't the first film start where because he remembers the before times?
The first film starts at the kind of
essentially
apocalypse.
At the apocalypse, yeah. So yeah, for him, he's a character that's kind of had to become who he is, I suppose. And so there's a certain justification to the way that he is, where it's because he's needed to do it to survive, but not necessarily to do it to thrive, as the villains tend to be. That whatever they've done it to thrive, whereas he's just done it to survive. So,
cracking film, definitely worth a watch in both its original colour and its black and white version is quite fun as well.
I never watched the chrome version. Never, still haven't seen it.
I will also say, if you come out of this film thinking, oh man, I'd like to watch some more George Miller films, may I recommend Happy Feet?
You see, I can't stand Happy Feet.
It's
like one of my least favourite films. Although obviously with this show and other discussions that we've had recently regarding
George Miller was at one point making a Justice League.
He was at one point making a Justice League film. Yeah, he was on board for making a Justice League film at. It was just after Superman Returns.
Yeah,
was released, and when Nolan was making The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And of course, it was not meant to be starring either Brandon Routh or Christian Bale. It was going to be a completely separate Justice League, and there's some very odd choices of casting from what I remember, because they had announced the entire cast. And Superman
Armie Hammer was Superman or Batman.
Batman was he was meant to be Batman. So obviously, Armie Hammer's a very tall man, so he was going to be a huge Batman. but the guy that they cast as Superman was like 5'10". So Superman was going to be the smallest Superman that there'd been, unless obviously Matt Bomer had finished playing Superman, because he was the final Superman before Bryan Singer got his hands on Superman for Superman Returns.
But we digress.
We do. But I mean, it was more of a point of what an eclectic director he is.
Yeah, he is.
He's done Happy Feet, obviously most famous for the Mad Max series. Was going to make a Justice League film.
Yeah,
and I think we both remarked, because I wasn't looking forward to his Justice League film when I saw it on paper, and then when we saw Justice League, it was a question, like Mad Max had come out at that point, Fury Road that is, had come out at that point, and I think we both thought, oh, if only we'd got the George Miller Justice League instead.
So what is your first pick to the table?
Well, I'm going to stick with DC. I'm going to stick with disappointing Justice League films, and I am going to go with Man of Steel.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay.
As I said, I'm going to play with the idea of what a dystopian film is, and I think with, as it says in Man of Steel, this logo, this S, isn't an S. It means hope. And Superman should be a beacon of hope. And he should be someone that, as dark as everything is that's around him, that you can look at him and get a sense of hope.
Is what you're saying, but you've not necessarily picked a dystopian film, but for world to be existing that features Man of Steel is your personal dystopia.
Yeah. We are living in my personal dystopia, where Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and now the Snyder Cut exist. But within those films, because I won't focus on my cynical view on those films being allowed to exist, but within that film, there is, I mean, it's an excellent dark sci-fi. I think of the three films that Snyder actually managed to make within his Snyderverse, it's the best of the three films, but it's the worst Superman film that's been made, and that includes Quest for Peace. It's really a tale of an alien fighting his uncle, and humanity gets caught in the middle of it. It's a disaster film. There is untold levels of damage, whether it be just collateral damage or whether it be casualties. There are times that in the final fight where Superman is so careless and clumsy that he flies through heavily populated buildings, similar sizes to the Twin Towers that went down at 9/11, and obviously that was deliberately done as well. It was to evoke that memory, and that isn't something that I think should happen in a Superman film. So Superman shouldn't.
I agree.
Yeah, Superman shouldn't have allowed that fight to happen in Metropolis.
Well, I remember we joked at the time when the Godzilla movie came out.
Yeah.
The second American remake of Godzilla, that Godzilla takes more care in that film to stop collateral damage than Superman did in
and
Man
he's
of Steel.
A giant clumsy dinosaur that breathes fire. Like he's so big that just simply turning round he's going to cause some damage, and yet does everything he possibly can to make sure that he and the other monsters don't absolutely obliterate everything. And we are ants to that being. And yet, in Man of Steel, Superman, who is meant to be this enlightened, otherworldly being who has been shown things from his in the Fortress of Solitude and etc., he should have learnt these things. And I think that's I think that was my biggest issue, in that, like, obviously going back to the Chris Reeve film, which is dated, definitely. It's a film of its time, but it gets Superman right, and it gets the, like, Clark and Superman are excellently written and performed like no other. And I think the sad thing is for me that, like, Cavill could be an incredible Superman and Clark, but I think, as with all of the cast in the entire Snyderverse, they're wasted. Go on.
I recently watched a video essay by, I think it was a YouTuber who does video essays on films, called Maggie Mayfish.
Yeah.
And she posits that in the Reeves film, the Donner film, you see Superman take time out of his day to save a cat.
Yeah.
And you'd never
see Cavill's do that. Yeah.
Like, even when he is saving people, he doesn't even stop to talk to them.
Yeah.
Like, he's always distant, always away from the people he's saving. Like, in Batman vs Superman, when they come to save a flooded town, he's just floating above them, all Messiah-like.
Yeah.
But not actually being of the people.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, Superman is of the people.
So yeah, Superman is he's Pinocchio. He desperately wants to be a real boy, but he never will be a real boy. So he might as well use the things that makes him different to guide and be a beacon of hope and be an example and try and help his adoptive brothers and sisters in humanity. And you never get that sense in Man of Steel that is really what he's doing. He's battling Zod because Zod's doing some bad stuff, but at no point do you really feel that it's because he actually cares about the people that are being affected. And he almost directly kills thousands of people himself by throwing Zod through buildings and flying through buildings himself. And, like, you could claim that the buildings have been evacuated or whatever, but they probably weren't. And the amount of collateral damage in that film, he probably either directly or indirectly killed 2, 3, 4,000 people.
Yeah.
And Superman should be heartbroken. Superman should be in a state of depression from one death, let alone being clumsy enough to kill 4,000 people. And I think so. For me, my first choice is Man of Steel.
Okay, so what is your second choice?
My second choice. Well, do I go for, and I'll let you choose.
You meant to have picked this before we.
I know, I've got two equal choices. Do I go for another different interpretation of dystopia, or do I go for a traditional interpretation of dystopia?
I picked traditional.
You're going to go with traditional, okay.
Yeah.
Then in that case, I'm going to go with Logan's Run.
But tell us what your other one was first, anyway.
My other choice was going to be Monsters, Inc.
Oh, interesting.
Because obviously, if for those of you aware of the Pixar theory, that they all are in the same universe at different points in time, obviously, with Brave being set furthest back in time.
Go on, let's go with Monsters Inc. Let's just do it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You sure? All right.
Yep.
Then in that case, I'll very, very quickly talk about Logan's Run, and then we'll come back to Monsters, Inc. So, Logan's Run, classic dystopian future where people live in a walled city, a domed city, and at a given age, usually in your early 20s, you are chosen to die, essentially. And Logan and the other lead character find this out, and they choose to try and get out of the city. And of course, they find out that there is a great wide world that exists outside of the city, that is in this post-apocalyptic environment where actually the Earth has started to rebuild itself. It's livable again. It's clean again. The irradiation is gone. It's meant to be set in the deep, distant future, and obviously this civilization exists in a grand bunker that would have been built to house humanity, and of course the culture is continued. There are various other films that have exactly the same trope. Obviously George Lucas's original cinematic outing of THX 1138, which obviously didn't do great money, but has almost the same. It has a very similar plot. There's the Ewan McGregor film The Island, which came out in the early noughties. Almost exactly the same premise again. So
I've never actually seen Logan's one.
Brilliant film. A film of its time. Again, it's there's some questionable costume choices. Jenny Agutter predominantly wears a flimsy see-through garment with no underwear on, which is a typical costume choice of the time. So, it's it's an excellent example of that type of film. I think if you've seen Michael Bay's The Island, starring Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor, then you'll have got roughly the same.
Well, how about this? We'll break the formula slightly.
Yeah, go on.
I'll deliver my second film,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll come back to you to justify Monsters Inc.
All right, go on then, and then maybe we'll choose between
from all of them. Yeah.
And if you feel like it, throw a. In fact, actually, you've thrown a third in anyway, haven't you? Because you've got Logette. Right, go on
so,
then. What's your third film?
Comic book movie.
Go on. Yeah.
It is another feast for the eyes. It is Dredd 3D.
Ooh.
Also known as Dredd, if you didn't see it in the cinemas when it was 3D.
Yeah.
But actually, a really good 3D film. They're few and far between, but Dredd
it's one of the rare ones that was actually natively shot in 3D, wasn't it?
But Dredd adapted from the Judge Dredd comics, which is a dystopian future where cities have just become gigantic and the law is judge, jury and executioner. The concept of Dredd is originally created by British comic authors as a satire of American justice.
I think it's a little bit close to the bone nowadays,
unfortunately. But Dredd is a cracking action flick set in a dystopian crime-ridden future where Dredd has to fight his way through a tower block to defeat the villainous drug pusher at the top. But I think it pairs well with Mad Max. I think they approach the apocalypse or the dystopia from a similar angle. They're both larger than life. They're both very visceral.
I think it also helps that like Australian humour is similar to British humour, and therefore Mad Max, as dark as it is, it's always got that slightly tongue-in-cheek, slightly sarcastic, satirical look on things, and so potentially with the British origins of Judge Dredd, and it seems to be a fairly faithful adaptation, the film, to what the spirit of Judge Dredd is.
Yeah, definitely.
Again, obviously an Australian actor as well, so I think there's definitely creative reasons why I think your suggested double bill actually would work quite well together. If a very intense 4 hours of viewing. Yeah.
Well, Monsters Inc.
Monsters Inc. So obviously, for those that don't know, the Pixar theory is that all of the Pixar films exist within the same universe. That starting furthest back in time with Brave, which is set in ancient times when magic is still real and available to humans, etc. And in Brave, there is an old witch character that is almost confirmed. I think Pixar like to allow people to play with it in their own minds, but it's almost confirmed, is Boo from the Monsters, Inc. franchise. Now, Boo exists in our time, so roughly modern time. And in Monsters, Inc., the monsters travel through doors to get into children's bedrooms to scare them, because they found that
their society is powered by...
Their society, their form of energy is through emotion, essentially. Now, obviously, originally in the first film, it's through fear, but then they discover that joy is a more powerful emotion. So by the end of the first film, they're going through time. Well, they're going through the doors to make children laugh instead of making children cry. In Brave, there are magical doors that lead you through to other environments. So it seems that the magic is lost to humans except for in children. And so it's children that still have that magic. And the magic powers everything that happens in Monsters, Inc. Monsters, Inc. is meant to be set very, very, very far into our future. So obviously if you look at WALL-E, which is set, I think, 900 years in our future, I think?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So WALL-E set about 900 years in our future. That is obviously when humans have become so fat and so lazy that we've destroyed the world through consumerism, and we've left it far behind, and we're off flying in our giant spaceships, and we've left robots to clean the world up for us. At the end of the film, we see a little shoot. Wally's got a little plant. It's the first thing that's growing in this dirty environment, and it is part of the Pixar theory that it's actually in the forests and things that grow from this that the Bug's Life is set in. So Bug's Life isn't actually set during our time. Bug's Life is set in a distant future. And it's the bugs that, the bugs that evolve
into the monsters.
Into the monsters.
That's interesting.
Yeah. The Cars universe is supposed to be what finally actually destroys the Earth, because we make sentient, smart cars, essentially. Obviously, like with Tesla at the moment, with the hands-free driving and things like that, they become so intelligent that when we leave, the cars have their own society, but they still rely on fuel.
So it eventually...
So it eventually causes a proper extinction level event.
Where does Toy Story fit into?
Toy Story is, I believe, in our time, but the toys are like children, and I think probably because they have so much contact with children, they are one of the conduits of magic. And so they are alive because of magic, because of the love that they get and the imagination that they get from children.
This has been a...
So yeah, Monsters, Inc. Is one of my choices.
This has been an interesting offbeat episode.
It certainly has.
I'm going to say, for the double/triple bill,
yeah,
for the sake of topic, I think it's my two.
For the sake of your topic?
For the sake of a straight dystopia, you can fit Logan's Run in, I know. But I am going to posit Legete followed by Mad Max and Dread.
I'm going to suggest not having Dread and putting
Logan's Run.
It. Yeah. Because then you've got three different representations
Of
of a dystopia through a French lens. I think Logan's Run was a predominantly British film. It certainly had a mostly British cast.
Yeah.
And then you've got an Australian view on dystopia as well. So you've got three different cultures, 3 different times as well. Because Le Jetée was it the 50s or the 60s?
60s, I want to say.
So it's the 60s. Logan's Run in the 70s, and then you've got Mad Max, which is actually like generation spanning. So I think the first one was 81 or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got a nice overview of dystopia. So if you're happy with that,
yeah, I'm game with that as our final our triple bill.
As our triple bill to end the first season of Double Bill. What
snacking treats have you got for our viewers this week?
Well, as we've had such vibrant and exciting films, I thought we'd go for a stereotypically bland British food. Now, obviously, British cuisine does get a bad label from the rest of the world, in particular the Americans, who seem to think that we just don't know how to season things. Most of the time, that's wrong. However, a British staple for snacking in general, but in particular in the cinemas. And again, we're going to go for a northern cinema this time. And the north is well known for not liking to spend money.
The north is just better anyway, isn't it?
The north is significantly better, but we're very tight. We don't like to spend money on things. In particular, cinema drinks. We don't want to be spending £5 to £7 on a bucket of something that's only going to make us want to go to the toilet halfway through the film. No, what we want is something...
if you go to the toilet halfway through the film, you miss out on bits of a film you've paid for.
Exactly. So what you want is something to dehydrate you. And nothing is better than the ironically named water biscuit. Or, in certain parts of the country, a cream cracker. A nice, dry, almost flavourless flour and water based cracker, usually paired with cheese if you're being a bit fancy, but in the case of northern cinemas, traditionally eaten a whole pack or as many as you can or as many as you need to make sure that you don't go to the toilet during a film.
While I know eating them plain is the norm for cinemas, I can't help but sneak a bit of blue cheese on there.
A little bit of blue cheese, yeah. So, in certain northern territories, like Crewe, where it's, they're not real northerners. They do get a bit fancy and they put some cheese on. So, whereas in the real north, we'll have proper World War One style fake strawberry jam that's made of apple and it's got little bits of wood chip in it, and that'll be as glorious as we get.
If it wasn't for Crewe, no one could get to the north.
It doesn't go to the northeast.
With a gate of the north.
You're the gateway to the northwest. And who wants to go to Manchester? Awful city.
I love Manchester.
City. It's all about the northeast. And on that note, on that absolute glorious bombshell.
This is the end of our first season of this content.
It's the end of our first season, yeah. We do have another one planned.
Yep. Also coming up, we're going to treat you to something we're going to call Around the World in 80 Films.
I thought it was 50 films.
50 films? Yes, that sounds much more manageable.
Well, it was more for the alliteration.
Around the World in 50 Films.
Around the World in 50 Films, yeah, where we will look at a film that is representative of the film industry or of the culture of a particular country. We'll start with the home nations in Ireland. So we're going to do England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. And that will be coming in a few weeks' time.
Yes, we'll still have gaming news for you when there is gaming news.
And we will be having retrospective looks at things like comic book movies of the past and other fun things. Obviously, if there's any general film news, we'll do that.
We'll do that as well. One thing we have got coming, but not sure when yet, as due to timings, but we are going to experiment with an actual play RPG game on here as well. You'll get to see me running, Matt playing, and we'll get some other people on as players as well.
Yep. But in the meantime, if you've got a suggestion for a dystopian double bill, or is even what we've done, a dystopian triple bill,
pop it in the comments.
Pop it in the comments, and we will see you again soon. Thank you very much. See you, James.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Exactly. Bye.